now that we have cut our finger joints and adjusted them to tight fit and cut the rabbet on the base, and we can put our molding and our top to the side, we can glue up now that we have all of the necessary joints to get a good square fit. Before we do that though, we should probably sand off all of the marking lines on the inside of the box, because once that we're glued up and we have these at 90 degrees, we're not going to be able to sand those off inside the box. So lay these guys out and we can sand off the insides, but not the outsides. We want to keep the outsides so that we know who gets joined to whom. And in order to sand off just the markings and not sand down the wood, we don't want to adjust wood anymore. Let's get rid of, 180. We don't want 180. That's way too strong. Let's do 400. And we can sand down, being very careful to sand off just enough to get rid of our lines. All right. Having sanded off the insides of the box pieces, time for a dry fit with our base to make sure that everything lines up correctly, also with the base. Now, depending on how much you cut your sides compared to the stock base that I'm providing, you might need to bring the base to me to have it cut down to size that will fit. So what we're going to do is called a dry fit. So we'll put it all together, but without the glue, so that we can make any adjustments that need to be made. And you notice I almost flipped these guys around a couple of times, but then I caught myself, because once I've sanded these markings off on the inside, if I don't have the corresponding markings on the outside, I'm not going to be able to know who goes with whom. Alright, so I have these guys pressed up against the inside of the rabbet on the base, and as tightly joined as possible. Now I want to look and see if I have any gaps that are being caused by the base. So if the base is too big, it's going to cause gaps. And I see a gap here with this guy and there with that guy. So having pushed in as much as possible, I see that it's basically the right length, but it's a smidge too wide because of how my pieces are curving. So if I hold this here, I can see at the base here that's pressed out. I can press it in at the top, but then there's a gap at the bottom. And there are two ways to deal with this. Option number one, just glue it up and then fill that in with extra glue and wood dust, because it's right on the end there, and it will make it look like it's just, an extra thick end grain there, a little bit. Or you can bring it to me and I will shave it down at the table saw and we'll make it a little bit narrower and get it to fit. So I'm going to go for option B. I'll take it over the table saw, narrow it down a little bit, and then re-rabbet the base here as necessary to get it to fit without the gap, because I would rather just have no gap. So we'll do that with the base. Shaved down just a smidge at the table saw and then re-rabbeted, because once you shave off the table saw, now this piece is less than it was, and the limiting factor was how wide the base was. So I left this together and I can put it on there. Now it fits, and I can press these guys together, and no gaps. Oh wait, we still had a gap there. Okay, no gaps, no gaps. So we can now glue this up. So we're going to take these joints apart one at a time, and we're going to put glue in between all of the fingers on both sets of fingers, and then along the rabbet, because we want to glue it down and glue them to each other. And then we've got a whole bunch of clamps here, because we want to clamp sideways and sideways, but then down into the rabbet. So let's start spreading the glue. So we'll do 2 at a time. All the glue on all the joints, so we will line up as much as possible with the edges of the base, because we're going to put shoe molding on there later, and clamp these suckers down and to each other. Checking for any gaps, residual, that I can squeeze together. Squeeze out, ooh, like that one. Because once the glue dries, no more dealing with gaps. There we go. All right, I seem to have squeezed all the gaps so that there are no more gaps. So now it just needs to dry.